Hi, David here, and welcome back to the channel, where we're looking at life in spirit through the automatic writings of early 20th century medium James Padgett. In some of the messages we've looked at in recent videos, we've seen people in spirit emphasizing that where we go in spirit very much depends upon who we are and upon our state of spiritual development at the time when we pass from this world. An important element in this is the thoughts we entertain and how they shape our personality and the psychic reality we inhabit, both while we are here upon the earth and when we are not here any longer. But it is a mistake to think that because the different environments in spirit are thought creations, they are not objectively real. They are very real indeed, and this is something that is emphasized in the message we are looking at today. The communicator from spirit is Anthony Riddle, a former law partner of James Padgett's. We last heard from Anthony Riddle back in video 2.9 when we looked at a message he delivered through James in September 1915. The message we're looking at today is from February 27, 1920. So about 4.5 years have passed, during which Riddle has presumably been exploring and learning and developing. So let's have a look at what he has to tell us. He begins as follows. I am here, Riddle. Let me write tonight, as I see that you are anxious to hear from some of your friends in the spirit world. I have not written for a long time, though I have been desirous to do so, and tonight will say only a few words in reference to my progress and happiness in my condition as a celestial spirit. For I am now in the celestial heavens, and know the truth of many things that have been written you. In spiritualist writings, there have long been descriptions of the 7 spiritual heavens, but one thing that was new in the Padgett messages is that they reveal what lies beyond the 7 spiritual heavens, or spheres, whatever you want to call them. Obviously, each of the spiritual heavens contains within it a wide range of different environments, often referred to as planes. In the Padgett messages, the heavens beyond the 7 spiritual spheres are generally referred to as celestial heavens, as a way of distinguishing them. The key thing about the celestial heavens is that they are home to those in spirit who share fully in divine love and are not accessible to anyone who does not share in divine love. As always, the environment matches the nature of the spirit, or the spirit matches the nature of the environment, whichever way around you want to put it. Now, obviously, one doesn't just suddenly become suited to the celestial heavens. Everything is process, including sharing in divine love. So there are people in the spiritual heavens who share in divine love, but who do not yet do so completely enough to pass to the celestial heavens. So in telling us that he is now an inhabitant of the celestial heavens, Anthony Riddle is telling us something very important about the soul he is. He is a soul who now shares in divine love so fully that he is suited to the heavens that lie beyond the 7 spiritual heavens. Now, some of the descriptions we have of the 2nd and 3rd spiritual heavens tell us about places that do truly sound like heavens, in that they are places of great beauty that goes beyond what it is possible to describe using earthly language. I remember once giving a message to someone from the platform of a spiritualist church as part of a demonstration of mediumship, And the spirit communicator I had with me was trying to pass on a description of the place where she lived. In the end, she gave up trying to do this in any detail and simply said it was like living inside the most beautiful painting she had ever seen. I was given the impression of intense beauty and of colours that were not just rich and bright, but seemed alive, as though they pulsated with energy. So how much more difficult is it likely to be to describe the higher spiritual heavens, let alone the celestial heavens? Anthony Riddle was on to say exactly this. It is a little difficult for me to recite to you the wonders of these heavens and the perfect happiness that is enjoyed by those spirits that have found their home and abiding place in the many mansions that Jesus spoke of while in the flesh. You must know that heaven is a place as well as a condition, notwithstanding the fact that so many of the spiritualists teach that it is only a condition or state of the soul. No, this is not all of the truth, but is a great part of the truth, for the condition of the soul determines just what heaven it shall occupy and find its harmony and happiness in. For the all-loving Creator has provided that the soul shall have a place corresponding to its condition, in which it may live and progress. That's quite a challenging thought when you stop and consider it in detail, that there is a place in spirit finely calibrated so as to be appropriate to the nature of every soul who has spent time living upon this earth. Not only that, but every one of us is a work in progress, changing day by day, year by year, which means that what awaits us in spirit is equally dynamic. People in spirit often say that this world is asleep to the sheer scale upon which things are done in spirit. And that isn't just a reference to the number of souls there is a place for, it is also a reference to the fact that the entirety of spirit is constantly being developed. The whole of spirit is a dynamic environment, under construction, constantly being extended. The environments we create and live in this world are also dynamic, but because the change is gradual, we can also maintain the impression of stability. Although our ability to do that is increasingly going to be challenged in the years ahead because of the damage we have done to this world. The idea that the environments of spirit are dynamic, constantly developing to meet the development of those who inhabit it, or who may come to inhabit it, can encourage the idea that the place we belong to in spirit is a state of mind rather than a place with its own objective reality. But Anthony Riddle is keen to remind us that this perspective can be overdone. Anthony continues by saying, if heaven were only a state of the soul, then it would not be a real existing thing with the substance and reality that the soul, even in its state of bliss, must have as a necessary accompaniment to the enjoyment of what God has provided for its true condition of living. Heaven as a place is real and independent of the state of the soul, though it is necessary for the soul to be in a corresponding state in order that it may enter into this heaven and fully realize that it is a home suitable for its condition and enjoyment. If it, heaven, were not a real objective and perceptible place, then the soul would be limited by its own condition, which would be very narrow, as I may say, and confined to the limits of its own state, and separated from the states of other souls, and without the social intercourse that makes heaven a place of such happiness and enjoyment. Part of what Anthony Riddle is saying here is that spiritual development involves being sociable. One of the ways we develop as people is through other people taking us out of ourselves, not simply leaving us alone with our own thoughts, because that can be a way of getting stuck. Anthony's perspective on this is that if heaven were not a place with its own objective reality, peopled by others, every soul would then be in the condition of the ascetic in human life, and introspection and contemplation would be the source and only means of possible bliss. Knowledge of those things that are spoken of as beyond the heart of man to conceive of, and which are truly and certainly provided by God's love for the continuous and never-ending progress of the soul towards higher and greater enjoyment, would have no real conscious existence in that soul. So Anthony is telling us that in order to learn and progress, we have to engage with that which is beyond ourselves, meaning our external environment and the people and other forms of life who are in it. Anthony continues, as man in his earth life is provided with those surroundings and material things that are intended to make him happy or miserable, so in the heavens things material are provided to enable the soul of man to better enjoy its own condition. The things of heaven are not all spiritual as conceived by so many men, but are partly composed of the material of the universe, and are so constituted and formed to supply the desires and wishes of the soul with that which will satisfy the soul's longings for beauty and harmony and perfect enjoyment. If the several heavens are homes, real and substantial, which are suited to the states of the souls, and differing as those states differ in their requirements. These material things are not subjective, as so many mortals teach, but are objective, as are the things of earth, and are the objects of sight and touch, and of the other spiritual senses. Not only this, but Anthony goes on to illustrate the extent to which being sociable is an important spiritual skill. He tells us that when I desire to go into a city and indulge my desires, I find a city with streets and avenues and houses and other things that belong to a city, just as do you mortals of earth when you visit your cities. And so, when I desire to go to the country and enjoy the fields and hills and streams and gardens, they are all here, real and existing, and not the subjects of mere thoughts or state of my soul. When I am absent from the city or country, that city or country continues to exist in all its beauty and magnificence, just as truly as when I am present. Men must know that the soul, in its heavenly life, requires these material things, and has them, just as a soul, when enveloped in a body of flesh, requires the material things of earth. While the condition of the soul determines its place of living, yet that place is also existing and real and awaits the coming of that soul in a condition of harmony. So when we talk of heaven as being a real place or places, this means that the environments of spirit are real places, places of sensation or sensing, which we react to just as surely as the reality of the environments we find or create upon the earth. Anthony continues, in these heavens there is nothing nebulous or impalpable or only a reflection or image of the soul's condition, but everything is real and substantial and lasting as the eternal hills. And when the soul finds a habitation, it is not merely the effect of its own condition, but a place already prepared for the habitation of that soul, in accord with its true condition. If not, heaven would be a place of confusion and of appearances and disappearances, with no stability or abiding qualities. And the many mansions spoken of by Jesus as existing in his Father's house would have no real permanent being, but would depend for their creation and existence upon the mere state of the soul. The mansions are there and change not, and whether or not they shall have occupants depends upon the harmony of souls in their correspondence with the harmony of God's laws creating these mansions. That's also quite a striking thing for Anthony Riddle to say, that not only is there somewhere for each soul to go to, but that there are also homes being created in anticipation of souls developing sufficiently to be suited to them in the future. So although the environments of spirit are dynamic, being created, what is created there enjoys genuine stability. There's a lot in this message that is quite challenging once you start thinking it through, partly because Anthony Riddle is making us think about the practicalities of what goes on in spirit and the scale upon which that is all happening. So forget sitting around on clouds, strumming harps. There's a lot of folks in spirit being very industrious. Certainly, the more I engage with people in spirit, the more I have a sense of how valuable time is and how much there is to be getting on with. There are easy paths in spirit. It is possible to be idle, but there is a cost to that. Anthony Riddle concludes his message as follows. I have written you this short description of the heavens as based upon my knowledge and experience, devoid of speculation or metaphysical musings. I am glad that I could write you again. I am very happy and know that God's love is a real and transforming thing, and sufficient to create in the souls of men and of spirits that state which will enable them to have and enjoy the mansions in the highest heavens. I will not write more now. Good night, your friend and brother, A.G. Riddle. So an interesting message setting out in detail why practical matters are part of spiritual reality. This video concludes Series 2, where we've been looking at messages to James Padgett from people in spirit outside family, but who had some professional or friendship connection either with him or with his friend, Dr. Leslie Stone. The next video looking at life in spirit will be 3.1, the first in Series 3, which will look at messages from people who had no earthly connection to James Padgett. It will include some so-called dark spirits, people who are struggling with their personal legacy and who come to James seeking help, needing a way forward. It will also include messages from spirit guides James only came to know of through his automatic writing, along with others who want to express what they have learned since passing to spirit, or to correct what they thought, or in some cases taught, while they were living their earth lives, and so on. So Series 3 is a bit of a mixed bag, but it is interesting to see more of the range of experiences that different people have when passing to spirit, yet always dependent upon the choices they made while they lived in this world. Some of these messages will be challenging, but we'll start with one from a spirit guide whose duties mean that she spends much of her time with people in spirit who are struggling to move on from their attachments to worldly things. If all goes to plan, that will be uploaded next Wednesday. The next video in the Divine Love series will be video 10.21 this coming Sunday, where we'll be looking at a message from the Apostle John given in November 1915. It's quite a long message with some interesting thoughts on spiritual development and mediumship. I hope I can do it justice in a single video. So if you can find time to join me for one or other of those, please do. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please do take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already, as it does help to introduce the material to others. Thank you for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then. Bye-bye.